Chapter 571, 325, Break the Limits of Carbon-Based Life. Multiple forms. Hurricanes. Earthquakes. Blizzards. Magnetic field tumult. Spatial vibrations. When the water god, having achieved 5 elements unification, stepped through the void and descended above Kyoto University, the intensity of the disasters within 100 miles suddenly surged, and the entire world was confronted with an apocalypse. The moment Linziken saw the water god, every nerve in his body tensed, and he immediately mobilized his blood chi power and spirit, ready to strike. However, he felt some confusion. He couldn't understand why the water god, who had succeeded in unifying the 5 elements, would appear here. He had already achieved the 5 elements unification. Was there anything here that it still desired? As he pondered this, Shen Qinghan, who rarely spoke up, questioned, mythical beings are already capable of achieving immortality, and are already powerful enough. Yet, despite that, why are you willing to risk the destruction of Earth and Origin Land just to go a step further? What meaning does that have? With both the Earth and Origin Land destroyed, you would be the only living being left in the entire world. Wouldn't you feel lonely? As Shen Qinghan said these words, her voice sounded weak and devoid of presence. Yet, the words surprised and astounded Linziken. He could never have imagined that Shen Qinghan, who had been submissive since childhood, would now dare to question the water god, who had achieved 5 elements unification. This didn't align with her character at all. The universe is vast, there are other spaces where living beings exist. I will not be lonely, the water god replied emotionlessly to Shen Qinghan's challenge. Of the world's 5 elements gods representing the cosmic origins, it was the one most devoid of emotions. In order to evolve into a higher form of life, it could sacrifice everything. Hearing the water god's answer, Shen Qinghan felt that it was so cruel. She gathered her courage to look the water god in the eyes and challenged it again, even if there are spaces with other living beings, it won't be easy for you as an outsider to blend in. It matters not, I will create a new world, the water god said coldly. With that, a crack sounded. Below, Shen Qinghan suddenly turned into an ice sculpture. Her attempt to rebuke had failed, she was encased in ice by the water god. Han Han. Seeing his daughter suddenly turn into an ice sculpture, Su Meng, who was closest, cried out in panic instinctively. Quickly regaining her composure, she looked to Linziken for help. Xiao Chen, please save. Before she could finish her sentence, Linziken had already acted, releasing the scorching blood chi power and instantly freeing Shen Qinghan from the ice. Shen Qinghan, just released from her icy prison, looked somewhat bewildered. The ice encasement from the water god had sealed more than her physical body, it had sealed her consciousness as well. In those brief seconds of being frozen, her awareness was completely halted, and she had no idea what had happened. Crack! Suddenly, another crisp freezing sound echoed. Just after freeing Shen Qinghan, Linziken immediately found himself turned into an ice sculpture. But in an instant, Linziken unleashed a boundless and scorching blood chi power, shattering the ice and charging towards the water god in the sky. He knew the water god had just struck him. Since a great battle was inevitable, it may as well erupt now. Pavilion Master, please take the others and leave, take care of them for me. As he charged at the water god, Linziken shouted this to Qi Qingmo. Qi Qingmo didn't respond verbally but immediately took action, sweeping Shen Qinghan and both their parents into the long sleeves of her Taoist robe and rapidly whisking them away from the battlefield to avoid the cataclysmic conflict that was about to unfold. No sooner had everyone left than a tremendous commotion erupted behind them, shattering the very air. Turning her head at the sound, Qi Qingmo saw a vast expanse of flames soaring into the sky. More accurately, it was a great surge of blood chi that dyed the entire sky red. So powerful! The strength of this blood chi power was already on the cusp of transcending the confines of mythical beings. Qi Qingmo, witnessing the eruption of blood chi power from behind and feeling its energy waves, was visibly shaken with shock on her cool and elegant face. Linziken was evolving too quickly. In less than 2 years, his biological level had skyrocketed from high level to the current great perfection of the 9th order of mythical level. Furthermore, the biological pressure he emitted surpassed his own biological level, faintly on the verge of surpassing the mythical category unfathomable. Boom boom boom. In the high skies behind them, thunderous clashes of combat continued to explode non-stop. One look, and everywhere within sight was enveloped in flames, lighting up the entire land. At the heart of the flames, Linziken, tightly enveloped by blood chi power, wielded boundless might, punching the water god again and again. Each punch he threw bore energy that transcended the mythic threshold. Where his fists passed, space instantly collapsed, reverberating through the void. All matter in their path was devoured by the energy from his fists, annihilated into nothingness. However, these world-shattering attacks, when they struck the water god, were easily blocked by a sudden flash of golden origin energy, without harming it in the slightest. This was the protective quality of the golden origin, with the effect of Vajra invincible, greatly enhancing defensive capabilities. At this, Linziken frowned slightly but then steeled his heart and, grinding his teeth, willingly sacrificed essence blood without reservation to unleash an unprecedented blood chi strength, carrying a terrifying might capable of completely obliterating space, and struck at the water god cloaked in golden light. Boom! With that punch, it was as if stars in the universe were exploding, the entire world was instantly filled with a deafening roar, and within 100 miles, any matter touched by the sound wave was pulverized into dust. At the moment of the explosion, a slender figure surrounded in golden light was ejected from the conflagration of clashing energies and plummeted to the ground, raising a cloud of dust. Almost simultaneously, text notifications appeared in the void. You have unleashed a blow that has reached the limit of Earth's carbon-based life. Achievement, cumulatively matched the limit of Earth's carbon-based life 100 times. Reward, obtain biometric attributes multiple forms. Multiple forms, your body is no longer bound by the frailties of Earth's carbon-based flesh. Enabling evolution to transcend biological forms. Current progress, 1/100. A new achievement task? As he read the content in the notifications, Linziken was surprised. It had been so long since a new achievement task had appeared that he had completely forgotten about it. His surprise quickly faded, replaced by a sense of slight exhilaration. 99 more times. He just needed to unleash 99 more full-powered strikes like the one he had just performed, and he would break the limits of Earth's carbon-based life, achieving evolution that spanned across life forms. By then, he would certainly be able to crush the water god who had achieved 5 elements unification. Ever since the 4th month of his life, struggling to complete 10,000 kicks on the crib to obtain the biometric attribute use it or lose it, he had relied on completing system achievements to grow stronger. Every biometric attribute he had obtained from completing system achievements was so powerful that it could only be described as outrageous, which filled him with confidence in the new biometric attribute, multiple forms. P.S. I'm asking for your votes, monthly passes, and recommendations. Chapter 572, 326, Sublimation to the Extreme. Breaking the Limits of Carbon-Based Life. Linziken didn't stay excited for too long, as he soon thought of a very realistic problem. The strike he had just unleashed was a full-force blow made by burning his essence blood. Whether he could continuously deliver 100 such full-force blows without resting and recovering first was a question that needed to be asked. Although he lacked confidence, in this desperate situation where he found himself at a dead end, he had no choice but to try with all his might. Succeed or die trying. With that thought, Linziken collected his wits and focused all his attention on the dust below. As time passed, the dust in the air gradually dissipated. Soon, a huge pit suddenly came into Linziken's view. In the center of the pit, a woman with a cold demeanor was submerged entirely in the ground, her body surrounded by a shocking web of fractures. This woman was none other than the water god, the embodiment of 5 elements unification. At this moment, the golden light radiating from her body was so dim it was barely visible, nearly completely vanished. Under the full force blow that Linziken had just sacrificed his essence blood to deliver, the Vajra invincible light film barrier formed by the gold origin on her body was directly shattered, defense broken on the spot. Without the protection of the golden light screen, she was gravely injured, her vitality rapidly fading. She looked somewhat disheveled, no longer the lofty figure who viewed all living beings beneath her feet as ants. But quickly, her battered body began to emit a green light filled with vitality. With the emergence of the green light, her wounds visibly healed at an astonishing rate. In the blink of an eye, her battered body had fully recovered as if it had never been wounded. Having witnessed this scene with his own eyes, Linziken knew that the origin of Wood's everlasting life force was at work. At this, his brows furrowed slightly. The attack he had just delivered was the strongest blow he could muster. Yet even this strongest blow, which could only be unleashed after sacrificing his essence blood, failed to deal a fatal blow to the water god, encapsulated by the 5 elements. More precisely, it was capable of dealing fatal damage to the water god, but it could not prevent her from instantly healing herself, resulting in a mere waste of his blood chi power. However, that didn't matter, as Linziken hadn't expected his full force blow powered by the sacrifice of his essence blood to inflict significant damage on the water god. Now, his only goal was to sacrifice essence blood and continuously deliver 99 full force attacks reaching the limits of a carbon-based life on Earth to gain the multiple forms biometric attribute, thereby evolving to a higher level. Buzz. Accompanied by a piercing sound of slicing through the air. Linziken, who a moment before had been suspended in the sky staring at the pit, was now transformed into a streak of crimson light rushing towards the water god in the abyss. Then, boom! With a loud explosion, an overwhelming blood chi power struck the water god, causing the entire pit to collapse instantly, followed by the ground cracking and the void trembling. Boom! 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 Explosion after explosion followed. Linziken frantically sacrificed the essence blood within his body, repeatedly delivering full force blows that reached the limits of a carbon-based life on Earth, giving the water god no chance to recover. Achievement, cumulatively equaling 100 times the limit of Earth's carbon-based life. Progress, 2/100. Progress, 3/100. Progress, 4/100. Progress, 96/100. Progress, 97/100. In a very short span of seconds, Linziken unleashed dozens of punches, each packing the power to the limits of Earth's carbon-based creatures. When he got to the 97th punch and was about to deliver the 98th, he suddenly felt blackness before his eyes and a sensation of weakness throughout his body, making the last punch he delivered insufficiently powerful to reach the limit of Earth's carbon-based creatures. His blood chi power was nearly depleted. Only a faint trace of essence blood remained for sacrifice. His body had been overdrawn to its limit. For a short period, he was no longer capable of delivering a punch with the power reaching the limit of Earth's carbon-based creatures. Realizing this, Linziken had no choice but to halt his assault. Then, with a thought, he took out a large number of bloodbath pills from his storage space and poured them into his mouth like water, quickly absorbing and digesting them. Under the effect of the bloodbath pills, in just an instant, Linziken's blood chi power showed significant recovery. However, it still wasn't enough for him to immediately unleash an attack at the power level of an Earth carbon-based creature. Buzz! A swift sound of rushing air suddenly erupted. The fiery light and dust below were abruptly drawn in and devoured by a powerful suction force, vanishing from Linziken's sight in an instant. In its place on the ground was a pitch-black cavern that seemed bottomless. This bottomless pitch-black cavern was the work of Linziken's consecutive 97 punches. Boom! With a loud explosion, the dark cavern suddenly erupted like a volcano, spewing out a vast amount of azure water element. Under Linziken's gaze, the water element swiftly coalesced into the slender figure of a woman. It was none other than the water god who had just absorbed his 97 punches. Now, the water god radiated a dazzling green light, her being brimming with life, emanating an immortal and eternal aura. She hovered above, looking down at Linziken from a height with fervor in her eyes. Is this the power from the abyss? It feels even more mysterious, ancient, and powerful than the 5 elements force within me. It's time for things to return to their original owner. At the moment those words fell, with a single thought, she unleashed a torrent of 5 elements power, rushing towards Linziken in an attacking surge. Chapter 573, 326, Ultimate Sublimation. Breaking the limits of carbon-based life, _2. In an instant, golden light blazed in all directions, vines covered the sky and blocked the sun, water from the heavens condensed and descended, fire from the earth burst forth, and the ground split and shattered. The powers of the 5 elements erupted simultaneously, focusing their onslaught on Linziken. Feeling the immense power of the 5 elements, Linziken's face showed a slight change. Then, in a flash, his figure dashed away, breaking through the void to avoid the attack. Unfortunately, the power of the 5 elements was far stronger than he had imagined, tracking him through the void, and before he could escape it, the power struck him from behind. Just one strike, and Linziken, who had achieved the status of 9th order great perfection in biological level, was gravely injured. Puh! The moment he flew backward out of the void, Linziken, seriously wounded, spat out a mouthful of fresh blood, causing his face, which had just regained some color thanks to the nourishment of the bloodbath pill, to turn pale again in an instant. Buzz buzz buzz! Several vines shot out explosively, wrapping around Linziken's entire body at high speed, binding him tightly and suspending him high in the air. Soon, the water god stepped through the void and appeared before Linziken, saying expressionlessly, "You are unworthy of the abyss power, it belongs to me, and it's time for it to return to its rightful owner." With that, he extended his spiritual power into Linziken's sea of consciousness, searching for the abyss power located somewhere within it. Linziken didn't surrender without a fight and immediately sacrificed the last of his essence blood, freeing himself from the vines wrapped around him and, with a single thought, stepped through the void to put distance between himself and the water god. Surprised by this turn of events, a faint hint of astonishment flashed between the water god's brows. Linziken had nearly exhausted all the essence blood and blood chi power within his body, and yet he managed to break free from the vines, which was somewhat incredible. Interested, the water god said, "Your strength doesn't solely come from the abyss, it seems there are secrets within you that I am unaware of." After hearing this, Linziken realized that the system and the abyss might be two separate things. However, now was not the time to delve into this matter. Linziken steadied his emotions and asked, "What exactly is the power of the abyss?" The water god's voice was clear and cold as he explained, "The power of the abyss is the origin of the world." He knew that Linziken was initiating conversation to buy time and recover. But he was not concerned. He didn't think Linziken's stalling would change anything. Now, the entire Earth had barely any origin force left for Linziken to absorb and evolve with. There was no possibility for Linziken to turn the tide. "The origin of the world," Linziken said, somewhat bewildered. He was very aware that the water god knew he was buying time. But he also knew that the water god would not deliberately stop him. Because he knew how arrogant a being of 5 elements unification like the water god would be. Like a thick-skinned, flesh-laden elephant, never bothering about an insignificant ant-like arrogance. "I seek to become the creator god and create a world of my own." The water god allowed Linziken to buy time, and continued with a clear, cold voice, "To achieve this, I need to fulfill 2 conditions. The first is to control the 5 elements' origin. The 5 elements' origin is the fundamental element of a world's construction. By controlling the 5 elements' origin, one possesses the ability to create all things and nurture life. The second is to have an unclaimed void. And the abyss, known as the life forbidden zone, is such an unclaimed void. Now, having controlled the 5 elements' origin, I am only lacking the abyss. The water god patiently explained all this to Linziken. This was his final act of mercy to this earthling, and in his eyes a return for Linziken's role as a container for the son of the abyss. I have answered everything you wished to know. Now, it's time for things to return to their rightful owner. Perish along with the earth and the origin land. The water god said without a trace of emotion. As his words ended, he once again unleashed the power of the 5 elements at Linziken, intending to end his life and take back the abyss power temporarily residing in his sea of consciousness. Seeing this, Linziken decisively burned all the essence blood and blood chi power he had just recovered, converting it into power and concentrating it on his fist. He charged toward the sky, filled with the power of the 5 elements, and threw a powerful punch at the water god. The moment his body made contact with the power of the 5 elements, a sharp pain instantly swept through his entire body. Enduring the pain, Linziken mercilessly pushed through the oncoming power of the 5 elements and poured all the blood chi power from his fist onto the water god. Within an instant, the vast, endless blood chi power completely engulfed the water god, evaporating the surrounding air into nothingness with it. That punch had nearly drained all of Linziken's energy, turning his complexion pale once again. Upon this, he quickly had the thought to take out a large number of bloodbath pills and swallow them, trying to accelerate the recovery of his essence blood and blood chi power as much as possible. Simultaneously, familiar text notifications appeared in the void. Your strike has reached the limits of Earth's carbon-based life forms. Achievement, equal the limits of Earth's carbon-based life forms 100 times. Current progress, 98/100. Linziken's heart stirred slightly at the sight. Just 2 more times to complete the achievement. While his heart was exhilarated. Soon, the remnants of the blood chi power started dissipating, and a figure emitting a green light appeared vague and flickering before his eyes. It was the water god. Bolstered by the combined blessings of Vajra invincible and everlasting, the water god was in nearly perfect condition and appeared before Linziken once again, without any possibility of defeat. Your desperate struggles are futile. The water god said in a clear and emotionless voice. In response to these words, Linziken had no verbal retort. All he had was a fist laden with blood chi power. Boom! With that sound, the water god, just recovered to full condition thanks to everlasting, was once again completely consumed by the boundless blood chi power. Your strike has reached the limits of Earth's carbon-based life forms. Achievement, equal the limits of Earth's carbon-based life forms 100 times. Current progress, 99/100. Just one last punch. With resolve, Linziken sacrificed the last thread of essence blood sustaining his life's basic functionality and once again unleashed a terrifying blood chi power towards the water god. Boom! When this earth-shattering noise erupted, a multitude of text notifications surged out from the void all at once. Your strike has reached the limits of Earth's carbon-based life forms. Equal the limits of Earth's carbon-based life forms 100 times, achieved. You have gained the biometric attribute, multiple forms. Multiple forms, your body is no longer limited by the weaknesses of Earth's carbon-based life forms flesh and can realize evolution beyond life forms. Your biological level has successfully evolved from 9th order great perfection to primordial. Following the final notification popping up, Linziken, who had been utterly exhausted, suddenly underwent a rapid transformation. The blood chi power within his body swiftly faded into oblivion, replaced by an ancient and profound mysterious energy. This energy triggered an extreme metamorphosis in his frail body, fully integrating it into the void. P.S. Begging for votes, seek monthly pass recommendation. Chapter 574, 327, Water God Falls. I could sense everything. After reaching the pinnacle of his transcendent state, Linziken was astonished to find that his perceptive range could now encompass the entire earth. He could discern every hidden corner. Nothing could escape his notice. Steadying his emotions for a moment, Linziken seriously began to feel his own body, which had reached the creator level of biological level. There was no longer any blood chi power. Nor was there spiritual power. What existed was only a vast and boundless energy of ancient unknown. This ancient energy was tremendously exaggerated, a single unit of it could explode with a force thousands, if not tens of thousands of times greater than that of blood chi power and spiritual power. After sensing it for a while, Linziken felt this ancient energy was very familiar, containing an aura of the void. An aura of the void stemming from the abyss. Could the system still be related to the abyss? Linziken slightly furrowed his brows, lost in thoughts. While he was reflecting, how is this possible? A voice full of incredulity suddenly emerged from the dusty expanse ahead. It was the voice of the water god. After transcending the mythical level through the 5 elements unification, he was extremely sensitive to energies. At this moment, he sensed from Linziken a void energy that transcended the mythical level category. This caused him to be profoundly shocked in his heart. Linziken had done nothing, had paid nothing, yet his biological level had transcended the mythical level category just like him, evolving into a creator-level being. He could not accept this fact. You see, he had discreetly made countless arrangements throughout numerous epochs for gathering the 5 elements origin of gold, wood, water, fire, and earth, aiming to achieve 5 elements unification and evolve into a creator-level being, and had paid a lot. The weight had been unbearably tormenting. Yet here was Linziken, who had paid nothing and suddenly evolved into a creator-level being transcending the mythical level. Compared to his own efforts, this directly threw him off psychological balance. On another side, after carefully feeling his new body, Linziken quickly focused his gaze on the dusty area ahead, watching the shocked water god. He merely glanced over. The next second, Linziken directly tore through space, stepping through the void and appearing behind the water god. Then, he swung a fist enveloped with immense void energy, fiercely smashing it towards the water god unified under the 5 elements. Earth continued to rapidly crumble. He had to quickly defeat the water god to make the 5 elements origins within him disperse again, and stop the ongoing disintegration of Earth. Facing this terrifying punch, the water god showed no hesitation. With just a thought, he instantly maximized the effect of the gold origins Vajra Invincible. At the moment when the Vajra Invincible effect reached its limit, the water god's body suddenly burst into a vast expanse of dazzling golden light, instantly illuminating the entire world, covering all things under the golden radiance. Wherever the golden light was, layers formed around him as a barrier, centering on him, tightly safeguarding him from the incoming void energy. Boom! Just as the void energy touched the barrier of golden light, an explosion as shocking as a nuclear blast suddenly erupted, shattering the surrounding air like fracturing glass. Along with the air, the vast expanse of golden light also shattered. The golden light with the Vajra Invincible effect, under the onslaught of the towering tidal void energy, was instantly overwhelmed and swallowed, utterly erased within the void. This is impossible. The water god could not believe what he was seeing, unable to accept that the gold origins Vajra Invincible, under Linziken's attack, would prove to be so frail. Soon, deprived of the golden light's protection, he was engulfed by the overwhelming void energy, completely disappearing from Linziken's sight. It was uncertain how much time had passed. When the surrounding void energy gradually dissipated, revealing a desolate space of nothingness, a bedraggled figure came into Linziken's view. This bedraggled figure was the water god. Under the erosion of the void energy, the once high and mighty water god was now covered in wounds, riddled with damage inside. The powers of the 5 elements he had only just managed to fully control were now slipping away at a visible rate due to the severe damage to his body, growing increasingly uncontrollable. Feeling the life force rapidly draining from his body, he hurriedly tried to control the origin of wood to trigger the everlasting effect to heal himself. However, his injuries were too severe to manage control of the origin of wood. He could only watch helplessly as he gradually faded away, until he completely perished, ceasing to exist. Just one punch to leave the water god unified under the 5 elements on the brink of death. Above, Linziken looked down upon the grievously injured water god, his eyes filled with surprise. He had not expected to be able to inflict such severe damage on the water god, who was also at the creator level. It could only be said that the supplements from biometric attributes such as social animal, survival of the fittest, and high-level power were simply too exaggerated, greatly enhancing his attack power. Especially social animal. The trigger range for this biometric attribute was his own perceptive range. His current perceptive range could effortlessly cover the entire Earth, allowing all the surviving humans on Earth to boost his attack force. Given the same biological level, it was only natural for him, supported by billions of Earth's fellow beings, to heavily injure the water god. He did not dwell on it for long. Very soon, Linziken once again gathered void power, preparing to deliver the final strike to end the water god's life. Below, the dying water god, sensing Linziken's intention to end his life, promptly set aside all the dignity of being a 5 elements god and pleaded, "Spare my life, and I will divulge to you the method to create a world of your own." "I'm not interested," Linziken said emotionlessly. As he spoke, towering void energy burst forth from his hand, enveloping the water god below with a sky-obscuring might. He was different from the water god. The water god had no family, no kin, and no attachments in his heart. He didn't care whether Earth or the origin land existed, and he would give up everything for his own evolution. But he had family, he had kin, and the existence of Earth was extremely important to him. He would not destroy Earth and let his family and people die with it just to create a world of his own, erasing his humanity in the process. Boom! With just that thunderous noise, a boundless tide of void energy poured down upon the severely injured water god, instantly consuming him entirely, completely obliterated in the vast void. In the last moment before he vanished, the water god, his eyes filled with unwillingness, used the last bit of his energy to leave these words. "The 5 elements' origin is everlasting, and I, born from the water origin of the 5 elements, am also undying. One day, I will be reborn from the water origin." As the last syllable slowly fell, golden, emerald, azure, crimson, and ash-grey rays of brilliant light burst forth from the void where the water god was obliterated, rising to the sky and quickly transforming into myriad points of light that merged into the air and disappeared, reverting to unclaimed elements. Simultaneously, Earth gradually stopped disintegrating, with earthquakes, hurricanes, torrential rains, and magnetic storms all instantaneously vanishing, everything returning to calm. Linziken, witnessing this scene, couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. Finally, it was all over. P.S. Only the last chapter remains to end the book. Posting it. Chapter 575, 328, Final Chapter. Grand Finale. He looked around, and all the disasters had come to an end. Linziken's tense nerves were finally able to relax. Quickly, his gaze landed on the remnants of the void below, carefully sensing the presence of the water god. There was nothingness. Not a trace of the water god's presence was detected. It seemed that the water god had completely perished, no longer existing. However, the words left by the water god before its demise intrigued him deeply. The origin of the 5 elements is eternal. The water god, born from the 5 elements' origin, is also eternal. One day, the water god will be reborn from the water origin. Will it be reborn? Linziken muttered, a touch of worry blooming in his heart. But upon further thought, if it had been defeated once, being reborn would just mean another defeat. There was nothing to worry about, he could simply kill it again if needed. With that thought, Linziken didn't stay in place. With the thought, he tore open a rift next to him, stepping through the void to arrive next to Shen Qinghan and the others. Lin Ziyi, did you win? As soon as she saw Lin Zikan, Shen Qinghan immediately asked. Actually, she didn't need to ask, she knew Lin Zikan must have defeated the water god, unified by the 5 elements. After all the disasters around had dissipated, and Earth had stopped collapsing. This was a sign that the 5 elements' origin had been dispersed. Otherwise, at this moment, Earth would still be in a state of accelerated collapse, visibly moving towards destruction. Yes, I won, Lin Zikan said. The water god's consciousness has been eradicated by me, and the 5 elements' origin fused by it has been scattered again, stopping the collapse of both Earth and the origin land. Hearing this, everyone present breathed a sigh of relief. Before this good news, they had all been full of worry, their hearts hanging uncertainly, afraid that Lin Zikan might not be able to defeat the water god. Fortunately, Lin Zikan had once again proven reliable, never disappointing anyone in solving problems. Ah, looking around, it's all ruins, who knows how many families have been destroyed. Zhang Wangzhen, holding Lin Ziying, looked at the devastated earth beneath her feet, feeling very disturbed. Beside her, Lin Yanzheng wasn't as emotional, simply stating, it's an unavoidable matter, it's already great that our family is safe and sound. Shen Jianyi and Su Meng didn't speak, this teacher couple was relatively quiet. Then, Shen Qinghan asked, Lin Ziyi, how are we going to deal with the origin land? Previously, Earth had been unsafe because incidents involving attacks on humans by exotic beasts happened regularly, often causing panic. For instance, incidents like the giant mutant rat, rampant exotic plants, and heretical sect disturbances. The root of all these problems lay in origin land. Without the origin land, there would be no exotic beasts. With no exotic beasts in the world, humans could venture out without worry, unlike before. We'll talk about that later, origin land poses no threat to me now, we'll see how to deal with it later. Lin Zikan finished speaking, then added, the first priority now is to carry out disaster relief and rebuild our Earth. Although the Earth had stopped collapsing, the destruction caused by the previous disasters had already formed. Countless tall buildings had collapsed. The casualties were heavy. Wherever his senses reached, it was all ruins. Right, rescue operations, we need to hurry and rescue, right now many people must be buried under the ruins waiting for help. Shen Qinghan, somewhat belatedly realizing this, said after hearing Lin Zikan's words. Seeing the somewhat dazed Shen Qinghan, Lin Zikan couldn't help but smile. Then, he looked towards Qi Qingmo, not far to his right, and said, Pavilion Master, let's go rescue the injured together. Okay. Qi Qingmo replied laconically. After settling his parents. In the time that followed, Lin Zikan, Shen Qinghan, and Qi Qingmo, utilizing their powerful abilities, began flying in 3 different directions to rescue the injured people they found. This process lasted for several days. Eventually, with the assistance of various parties, nearly all the injured had been rescued. Having dealt with issues on Earth, Lin Zikan planned a trip to Origin Land, to see how to handle that place. After entering Origin Land, Lin Zikan carefully felt the difference between Origin Land and Earth. The main difference was in energy. The air in Origin Land contained origin force, which could cause organisms to evolve to an even more extreme state, becoming more vital. Perhaps, we can fully connect Earth with Origin Land, letting the air from Origin Land flow into Earth to help initiate a new round of evolution in the organisms on Earth. Lin Zikan thought so in his heart, and as for any issues that might arise after full connectivity, like a considerable influx of exotic beasts into Earth, he wasn't worried at all. After all, his biological level was now of the creator level, his spirit could cover the entire Earth, constantly controlling the entire situation, ensuring no accidents would happen. After a moment of thought, Lin Zikan no longer hesitated, immediately using the power of the void energy to connect Earth with Origin Land, completely linking the two realms. The moment they connected, a large amount of air from origin land flowed into Earth. Subsequently, under the nourishment of the origin land's air, the animals and plants on Earth underwent subtle changes. Animals became more spirited. Plants became more vital. These were all subtle changes, and only beings of at least rare level, who could detect through spirit power, would notice. You connected origin land with Earth. Qi Qingmo, sensing the change between the two realms, turned his head to look at Lin Zikan and asked. Lin Zikan said, "Yes, I thought about letting the air from origin land flow into Earth to see if it could further the evolution of Earth's organisms." Chapter 576, 328, Final Chapter. Grand Finale. _2. Indeed. Qi Qingmo nodded and did not ask further. Lin Zikan did not elaborate either and continued to observe the changes in the creatures on Earth nurtured by the origin force. Qi Qingmo, too, observed for a while and then said calmly like water, "I am going to look for an opportunity to advance the biological level another step, see you when there's a chance." Pavilion Master, take care. Lin Zikan replied calmly as well. Every mythical ninth order being longed to evolve to the higher creator level. The wood god did. The water god did. Qi Qingmo did as well. Not long after. With Lin Zikan and Shen Qinghan seeing him off, Qi Qingmo's figure flashed, turning into a crimson streak of light, and she began to carefully explore every corner of the origin land. The origin land was ancient, holding many long-sealed secrets. She firmly believed that aside from the five elements unification, there must be other ways to evolve to the creator level. After all, Lin Zikan, without using the five elements unification, had successfully evolved to the creator level. And if these other evolution paths indeed existed as she believed, then they must be in the origin land. In the background, Lin Zikan, watching the departing Qi Qingmo, harbored the same thoughts. He too wanted to find other ways to evolve to creator level. Not for himself, but for Shen Qinghan. He wanted to evolve Shen Qinghan to the creator level. If possible, he even desired to evolve both sets of parents and his sister to creator level so they could exist eternally and accompany him forever. Otherwise, to live eternally alone, watching his loved ones age and die, would be an extremely sad affair. Time flew by. In the blink of an eye, 2.5 years had passed. During these past 2.5 years, Lin Zikan dedicated himself to addressing the coexistence issues between Earth and the origin land, helping both realms adapt to each other's presence. Leveraging his unmatched strength, he successfully integrated Earth completely with the origin land. And, to protect the weaker creatures of Earth, he imposed a unilateral restriction on the portals between the two worlds. With the restrictions applied, Earth creatures could freely move in and out of the origin land, while creatures from the origin land were confined to their realm, unable to enter Earth. Creatures from the origin land had to obtain permission from relevant authorities to enter Earth. And the person in charge of this authority was Yuan Dongji, the former vice-chancellor of Shan University. She was Shen Qinghan's mentor. Lin Zikan very much approved of Yuan Dongji's character and was willing to entrust such powers to her. In addition to Yuan Dongji, Lu Chuanyu and Song Yuan were also given significant responsibilities to manage the promotion of the pure-blood human path, and to research ways to lower the barriers to the pure-blood human path so that ordinary people could evolve by body refinement. After all, whether it was genetic fusion or mechanical transformation, both paths were somewhat anti-human. Only the pure-blood human path was the most suitable evolution path for humans. Early one morning, just as dawn broke, Lin Zikan and Shen Qinghan were still asleep in bed when a series of knocks sounded from outside the door. Then, a tender child's voice rang out. "Chen Chen brother, Han Han sister, Mom is calling you to get up for breakfast." It was the voice of his sister, Lin Ziying. Upon hearing her voice, Lin Zikan and Shen Qinghan promptly emerged from their room. "Come here, little Ying Ying, sister will hold you." Shen Qinghan, dressed in pajamas, scooped up the tiny Lin Xing, her face full of affection. The young Lin Xing was very adorable, with sparkling eyes and a slightly chubby baby face that made you want to hug her tight and rub against her. Soon, the three of them went to the living room for breakfast. Just as they sat down, Zhang Wangzhen asked, "You two got your marriage certificate yesterday, when do you plan to hold the wedding banquet?" Lin Zikan, while drinking porridge, answered, "Han Han and I can hold the wedding banquet any day, Mom, you arrange it for us, you and Dad go discuss it with Uncle Jianyi and Aunt Meng." Still calling them Uncle Jianyi and Aunt Meng, "You and Han Han got your certificate yesterday, you should call them Dad and Mom now." Zhang Wangzhen glanced at Lin Zikan and pointed out. At that moment, Lin Xing interjected, Chen brother, Han Han sister, hurry up and have a little brother or sister to play with me, I want a sibling." Zhang Wangzhen corrected, "That's not sibling, that would be little nephew and niece." Then, she looked at Lin Zikan and Shen Qinghan, with a hint of prompting, and asked, "Speaking of which, when do you two plan to have children?" To this, Lin Zikan replied, "Let's just let nature take its course, whenever it happens, it happens." Zhang Wangzhen was not satisfied and said, "That's not acceptable, you definitely need to prepare for pregnancy, it can't be that casual." "Okay, we'll listen to Mom." Lin Zikan, not fond of worrying about these things, straightforwardly delegated the task, leaving it all to Zhang Wangzhen to arrange. Half a month later, Lin Zikan and Shen Qinghan welcomed their wedding day. The wedding was not ostentatious but of a warm style. It was simply the two families gathering together, along with some close friends. Lin Yanzheng and Zhang Wangzhen, both online writers, mostly stayed at home writing and didn't have many close friends. Their only close friends were Shen Jianyi and Su Meng, the teacher couple and parents-in-law. Like Shen Jianyi and Su Meng, both inclined towards homebody habits and didn't have many close friends or relatives either. Thus, between the two families, they only invited some closely related direct relatives living back in their hometown. Not many people, just about a dozen. As for Lin Zikan and Shen Qinghan, neither fond of making many friends, the people they invited to the wedding were also few, just about 10. Chapter 577, 328, Final Chapter. Grand Finale. _3. He Yu, Li Chuxin, Yuan Dongji, Lu Juanwu, Song Yuan, Qi Qingmo, Ma Ziwei, Li Moyu, Luo Yongjian, and Luo Qingxiu. Regarding Luo Qingxiu, who was a childhood playmate, Lin Zikan and Shen Qinghan didn't feel very familiar with her. They invited Luo Qingxiu because she was also a disciple of Yuan Dongji, so they had to invite her. Thus, the beautiful wedding belonging to Lin Zikan and Shen Qinghan had only a little over 30 people in attendance, requiring just 4 large tables set up at home. Therefore, their wedding was simply held at their own home. The food was homemade. The beverage and alcohol were also homemade. If they could avoid buying, they would. If they could do it themselves, they did. They focused on creating a special ceremonial feeling. It held a special commemorative significance. "King Han, why are you and Chen both wearing casual clothes today, not even wearing a wedding dress?" Li Chuxin quietly asked, puzzled. Shen Qinghan softly chuckled, "Chen and I don't like standing out too much in a crowd, so we decided not to wear wedding attire today." I see Li Chuxin still didn't quite understand and said, "But I feel it's a pity not to wear a wedding dress today, it's missing a moment worth commemorating in life." Shen Qinghan casually replied, "I think it's all right, actually. Chen and I went to Shuangra Bay to take wedding photos a few days ago. Having those photos as a keepsake is enough." "That makes sense." Li Chuxin nodded her head. Nearby, Lin Zikan and Qi Qingmo were sitting face to face at a tea table, chatting idly. "Pavilion Master, you've been exploring the origin land for over 2 years. Have you made any interesting discoveries?" Lin Zikan asked curiously. "In the past 2.5 years, he also frequently explored the origin land, but to no avail. He hadn't found anything particularly valuable. He was curious if Qi King Mo might have found something different. Qi King Mo simply replied, I found many ancient ruins that seal various evolution pathways, but unfortunately, there are no creator-level evolution pathways, only up to mythical level. Lin Zikin wasn't surprised by this answer. If the creator-level pathways were so easily found, the water god wouldn't have had to plan uncountable epochs for the 5 elements unification. At that moment, Qi King Mo continued, I think to find new creator-level evolution pathways, one must search the mysterious and unknown abyss. The void in the abyss contains unimaginable energy, and if one could harness this energy for oneself, it might be possible to transcend the mythical level. Lin Zikin agreed with this. He had thoroughly explored both Earth and the origin land. No valuable discoveries had been made. Now, the only unexplored territory left was the abyss, the unknown void land. More precisely, it wasn't unexplored, but deeply exploring it was challenging, with many areas still untouched. The void land of the abyss would devour the perception of living beings, significantly increasing the difficulty of exploration. Even if one's biological level was as high as the creator level and possessed some abyss energy like Lin Zikin, entering the abyss still somewhat restricted his senses. Joyful times always passed quickly. In the blink of an eye, the day of the wedding banquet passed. That night, after taking a bath, Lin Zikin and Shen Qinghan stayed in their room to deepen their bond. After finishing, Shen Qinghan lay on her side and asked Lin Zi, do you think it's better to have a boy first or a girl? I think either is fine. What do you think, is it better to have a baby sooner or later? Sooner or later is fine, let fate decide. That's such an evasive answer, you can't evade it, you must choose one. Shen Qinghan pouted her rosy lips slightly, expressing her dissatisfaction. Seeing this, Lin Zikin had no choice but to choose, I've thought about it, and I feel it's better to have a baby sooner. While Yingying is still young, if we have a baby sooner, the cousin siblings won't be far apart in age and can play together from childhood. I was thinking the same, Shen Qinghan said with eyes full of spring, her voice soft, in order to get pregnant soon, we need to be more active. Saying this, she turned over and sat on Lin Zikin, ready to start again what they had just finished. Lin Zikin was also willing to go another round. After all, having achieved physical sanctification, he would not tire no matter how many times. Days passed by one after another. About 2.5 months later, Shen Qinghan got her wish and became pregnant, feeling the new life that had just begun to form in her womb, her face full of joy. Both parents learned the good news and couldn't stop smiling, praising the young couple for their effectiveness. They became pregnant as soon as they tried. Facing the praise from their parents, Lin Zikin just smiled and didn't say a word. For Lin Zikin, a being at creator level, making Shen Qinghan pregnant was effortless. If he wished, he could make Shen Qinghan pregnant at any given moment. Moreover, no effort was needed during the process, just a thought after finishing was enough. His powerful spiritual power could easily manually control the birth of life in her womb. However, compared to artificially intervening in pregnancy, he preferred natural conception, hence he chose to let nature take its course without any interference. Months later, Lin Zikin left Earth and entered the abyss, located between Earth and the origin land. In nearly 3 years, he had entered the abyss multiple times to explore for new evolution pathways. Previously when he came to explore, he brought nothing with him. But this time, he held 5 different colored glows in his hands. The glow of gold origin. The glow of wood origin. The glow of water origin. The glow of fire origin. The glow of earth origin. These didn't represent the entirety of the 5 elements origin, only a fraction of it. In the past nearly 3 years, Lin Zikin had successfully controlled a fraction of 5 elements origin through constant research and study. His control of these fractions of 5 elements origin wasn't to achieve 5 elements unification like the water god, but to transform the void land of the abyss. The 5 elements' origin are the fundamental elements that constitute a world, while the void land is the framework that constitutes a world. If part of the 5 elements' origin were brought to the void land of the abyss, they might nurture life. If life really could be born, then the dead and void abyss might naturally evolve into a world full of vitality, like Earth and the origin land. Hopefully, as I envision, with the incorporation of the 5 elements' origin, this life-forbidden zone can evolve into a new land of life. Linziken murmured. Then, with the thought, he dispersed the 5 elements' origin into every corner of the abyss, allowing these origins to evolve autonomously in this life-forbidden zone. After quickly completing all these tasks, he didn't stay long in the abyss and soon returned to Earth. If possible, he really wanted to stay and see what changes would occur in the abyss now possessing the 5 elements' origins in the coming time. But unfortunately, he now had more important matters to attend to. Just now, his mind sensing with Shen Qinghan had broken through the sensory restrictions of the abyss and sensed across the barrier that Shen Qinghan, who had been pregnant for over 9 months, was about to give birth. P.S. Seeking monthly and recommendation tickets.